The abundance of snails throughout the land of Amoji had raised concerns. It was not a regular occurrence, and so the villagers feared it could be a sign of doom. As the sun hung over the throne, casting its brilliant rays on the roofs and landscape, Abalanze, the chief priest, stood before Igwe Akokali and his cabinet chiefs. He sniffed the air and looked around the palace as though he could see something everyone else could not see. His eyes finally settled on the king and his chiefs, who waited expectantly. Only as a matter of urgency will a man leave his abode at dawn to answer the call of the one he deems worthy. He spoke. May I know why I have been summoned, Your Majesty? Greetings, Chief Priest of Ngene. Thank you for honoring my invitation. I believe you are aware of the strange occurrences in our kingdom. I mean the abundance of snails and the thunderstorm. We want to know what these signs mean. Abalanze gazed skyward and sang praises to the goddess. Then he looked at the king. The one who is afraid of the unknown will never find the treasure within. What Ngene has given, she gave out of love for her people. Relief washed over the king and his elders in council. He leaned back on his throne with a small smile on his face. But we know that after the day comes the night, the chief priest added. Amoji must be wary of an impending danger. Igwe Akokalia glanced at his chiefs before asking, What danger do you speak of? I speak only after Ngene has spoken. But in my capacity as a chief priest of Ngene, the greatest of all gods and goddesses, I see calamity looming over Amoji. I see tears and destruction all over the land. There was a bit of whispering amongst the chiefs. Igwe Akokalia gazed at Abalanze, surprised and confused. Anxiety replaced the relief he felt just a moment ago. Ikene's leg had become inflamed. The snake's venom had continued to spread despite NONYELUM sucking it out. His leg was reddish and had continued to swell by the hour. They had hoped to reach the forest of Omodiala by nightfall, but Ikene's wound slowed them down. They were left with no choice but to pass the night in the forest of Omini. It was the longest night they had ever experienced. They heard voices talking and laughing like the forest was home to a community of invisible people. They had limped on at dawn, hoping to at least make it out of the forest of Omini by sunset. I need some water, Ikene requested, breathing through his mouth. His voice quivered with frailty. There is no water left in the bottle, Nonye replied. We have to keep moving. We might find a water source somewhere ahead. Ikene drained down what was left of his saliva. His face had gone pale and his lips chapped. He barely managed to keep up. They steered through the forest as slow as a slug. Ikene breathed hard as he stifled the pain radiating from his swollen leg. They had gone a distance when NONYELUM thought it was time they rested. She helped Ikene sit at the foot of the tree and then let out a deep breath, massaging her shoulders. It had been exhausting bearing the weight of his arm. I do not think I can make it to the forest of Omodiala, Ikene spoke, his voice feeble like he was already at the corridors of the afterlife. Do not say that, Nonye rebuked him. You will make it to the forest of Omodiala. You must not give up. I am trying, but my strength fails me. Nonye shuffled and placed her hand on the side of his neck, looking straight into his eyes. You are a warrior, Ikene, and warriors never give up no matter what. So you have to keep trying, okay? Her words revived his will to fight on, and so he sighed and nodded lightly. But then he could not look away. In her eyes was an ocean of emotions swirling like a whirlpool. He saw in her the strength of a man, yet the softness of a woman. He felt his heart leap with affection. He was stronger than a mere attraction. His body yearned and sizzled with greater desire. It was obviously the same for NONYELUM, for she did not look away either. There was no denying of what they felt for each other. Their eyes mirrored the emotions blooming in their hearts like flowers in early rainy season. I shall go now and look for a water source, Nonye said softly, unwillingly breaking up the moment. Remain here till I return. She stood up. Be careful, Ikene nodded. But as NONYELUM looked up, she noticed something. The tree, the surroundings, they seemed familiar. "What is it?" Ekene asked. "I think we have been here before," Nonye answered. "What?" Ekene looked around. He did not quite notice anything at first. But Nonye pointed. "This tree looks like the one you were sitting at when the snake bit you." "Exactly," Ekene exclaimed, finally getting a grasp of the situation. This was it. Nonye scanned the area again and said, "I think Ngene is trying to stop us from reaching Umudiala." "She is," Ekene agreed, "and I have a feeling the snake was not ordinary." Silence lingered on like the fragrance of a sweet-smelling oil. "What do we do?" Ekene asked. NONYELUM bit the insides of her lips tentatively. "I will go and get us some water," she answered. "We will think of a way when I get back." NONYELUM went toward the east of the forest of Omini. The sky overhead was of dark and silver linings, and so the weather was easy on her skin amidst the comfort of the forest shades. Birds whistled ceremoniously, fluttering between branches and unwittingly shedding their leaves. The smell of water was in the air, so Nonye let her nose guide her like those of an elephant matron. He led her to a small stream near the edge of the forest. The water looked clean and flowing at a fairly steady current. Nonye dipped her bottle in and collected some water. She drank from the bottle and refilled it. Then she washed her face in the water and sprinkled some of it on her neck. Rejuvenated, she headed back to the tree. But as she looked ahead, she saw a woman standing next to a small tree, backing her. Nonye's brows furrowed as she wondered who the woman was, and why was she suddenly having goosebumps all over her skin. Something did not seem right about the woman. She simply stood by the tree, not moving. But despite the circumstance looking unnatural and unnerving, Nonye wanted to go closer. She felt a light yet persistent force pulling on her muscles, inching her closer, almost like she could not control it. She was merely some distance away when the woman called out, "Chukwu NONYELUM, do not come any closer." Nonye froze on the spot. A pang of shock sluiced through her. Who are you?" Her voice trembled. "It is I, your mother." Nonye cringed with fear before calling out, "Mother? A cruel path lies before you, my child. Even I, your mother, could not change it, for it was meant to be. The solution you seek lies within you, but only after dark will you find it." Nonye recoiled. "I do not understand, mother. What do you mean?" "Go back to the tree and take a handful of sand from where it meets the earth. Throw the sand into the air at all four corners of the earth and continue your journey. Go now. Go now before it is too late." After she had spoken, she disappeared right before NONYELUM, who broke off with a run as fast as her lissom limbs could carry her. She had a battery of questions to ask her mother, a lot to say, but she would have to bury them for now, hopeful that she would get another chance. It had been revealed to Abalanze that the goddess had chosen a companion. He had taken a long session of prayers, intercessions and incantations for the goddess to finally speak. But the revelation was incomplete. Abalanze prayed to be shown who it was, but the goddess remained silent, yet he continued to pour libations to her. NONYELUM and Ekene finally reached the forest of Umudiala at night. The moon was still behind the dull silvery clouds, yet they could see the scattering of conifers. Bats and crows announced the presence of two unwelcome guests. The rabbits shuffled in the thicket as they limped on. NONYELUM had spotted the hut from a distance, nestled amidst a fence of trees. A part of the hut glowed with a dull orange light, and rising from it was a thin cloud of smoke. "We are there," she announced. Ekene raised his head briefly and lowered it again. He could barely keep his eyes open. It was perhaps a miracle that he had managed to come this far, but his knees buckled. Death at this point was just around the corner. Nonye led him on as they walked along a clear path, their footsteps muffled by the sands. Finally, they arrived at the hut. It was quiet here, with an air of mystery around it. The visitors were greeted to a strong smell of boiled leaves. On the door hung the head of a bull and a short broomstick tied at the middle with a red and white cloth. On one end of the hut was a pile of wood. "Nne," Nonye called. glancing at the lantern hanging from a wood at the edge of the hut from which came the dull orange light. But there was no answer. It did not seem like there was anyone in the hut. "Nne," she called again and sat Ekene carefully at the foot of a tree nearby. She reached for the door and knocked, pushing gently on it, but it was locked. She went to the back of the hut. All she saw were more firewood, pots and black cellophane bags hanging around. There was also the small fireplace from whence the cloud of smoke came. Onye thought Nne might have just stepped out. She went back to Ekene. From a distance, she noticed something was not right about him. He had his head thrown backward against the tree, his eyes closed. She hurried in and grabbed him. "Ekene," she called repeatedly, fearing the worst had happened. But he neither answered nor moved a limb. "Please don't die, I beg you, please." "Nne," Nonye cried. She continued to shove Ekene back and forth, overwhelmed by trepidation and anxiety. After a minute, a plus-sized old woman emerged from the dark. She had a white wrapper tied to her chest and held a stick that supported her gait and stance. "Who is that on the sacred grounds of Nnokike?" she questioned. "Nne, it is I, Chukwu NONYELUM, daughter of Ezinne of Amoji," Nonye answered while scrambling to her feet. Nne came closer. Nonye had thought to see a woman beaten by old age, having not seen her for almost 2 decades. She was surprised, however, to see her looking younger. Grey hairs hadn't looked this neat and attractive before. Her eyelids were laced with otangele, making her look beautiful and mysterious at the same time. But there was something else. Nonye noticed she had gone blind. She was certainly not like that the last time she saw her. Something must have happened to her. "Give me your hand," she said to Nonye. After she felt her palm, Nne raised her head as though she could see who it was now. "Chukwu NONYELUM," she called. "Nne," Nonye answered. "How dark is your path, my child. But fear not, for Chukwu Okike Abiama shall grant you the fortitude to persevere, and I, Nnokike, shall bear witness to it." She sniffed the air and said, "I sense the presence of a weak and troubled spirit. Yes, Nne, he is my friend, but he is dying." Nne trudged closer to Ekene and touched his forehead. After a moment, she said, "He will live. Bring him to my chambers." Nne led the way as Nonye logged Ekene to his feet and dragged him into the hut.